Hey, we're back with you here on Gridiron. This is the Larry Kelly Hour, or 2 hours, or however many hours he needs to tell you about the Red Hurricane Report. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, I mean, look, it's the season's over. They finished with one victory. And it's kind of more of the same of what we've seen most of the year. High school football is about controlling the line of scrimmage. We talk about this every week. And Blackhawk ran the ball for 367 yards, and Newcastle ran it for a net 24. And that's just not going to get it done. And as I had said a couple of weeks ago, it's my understanding that Newcastle has a couple of young men playing on the offensive line who've never played football before. And offensive line is a matter of experience. It's a matter of execution. And the more experienced you are, the better you execute, and you're able to control the line of scrimmage. It was a close game against Blackhawk. The score was 9-7 at the half. And it's a game. It looked like, again, they're in the game, but unfortunately, they got outscored 28-0 in the second half. That could have something to do with attrition, the fact that, they're somewhat short on numbers. I didn't see the game, so I can't tell you. All I can tell you is in looking at the statistics, Blackhawk ran it for 367 yards. Newcastle, their net rushing was 24, and you're not going to win many games doing that. Silver lining and another bright spot. Kyrell Harris had yet another 30-yard touchdown pass. I don't know how many he has on the year, but it has to be close to 10. So he's a sophomore. And when you have a quarterback who is as explosive as this young man, you got a chance. But you need to develop offensive linemen. I always say, Ronnie, you get the right guys blocking, you and I can run the ball. But that's where these games are won and lost. And unfortunately, Newcastle was not able to control the line of scrimmage. That's especially true in the second half. And they got beat 37-7. Stacy gave his team credit for playing hard. Football is a really easy game to play, Ronnie. When you go into the last game of the season, 8-1, and you're riding high, that game gets really difficult. When you've had one win on the season and you're riding an 8-game losing streak, it's very difficult. But, the young men, according to Stacy, showed up. They played hard. They gave it all they had. And, he says the same thing I have. They have some talented young men on that team. And it's just a matter of time. Hopefully they can develop. Hopefully they can develop, an offensive and defensive line that, could control the line of scrimmage. You look at every one of these games, 90% of the time, the team that outrushes their opponent wins the game. High school football is still about running the ball. And, the Hurricane had a hard time doing it this year.
Yes, they did. Larry, two things regarding the Red Hurricane to talk to you about. Number one is, despite the loss, how much can they take from this game into the offseason, being that, like you said, it was 9-7 at the half, and what they finished 1-9. 7 out of their 9 games were Mercy Rule games. This one and the Char Valley game were not Mercy Rule games. So they actually got to play, four quarters of normally played quarters in terms of the clock, and playing the regulars. They were outscored 21-0, I believe it was, in the fourth quarter. So they battled. They battled a team for the better share of at least 3.5 quarters or so. What positive can they take from this game into the post or the offseason?
Well, look, it's easy to play, and it's easy to develop a culture when you're winning. It gets a lot tougher to buckle your chin strap and bang heads into the fourth quarter when your team is 1-8, soon to be 1-9. And like Stacy said, his comment to the news, he says, I hope this helps him down the road. I don't know when it might be. It could be 10 years from now. It might be tomorrow or 1 year from now, but I hope it helps him down the road. And the fact of the matter is, in life, you got to learn to deal with adversity and deal with it like a man, because you don't always win. And, when you lose and you can get up and do it again and again and again, you're developing character traits that hopefully will help you be successful somewhere down the road. And that's what Tracy said, or that's what Stacy said. And I'm a firm believer in that. Your job as a high school coach is to mentor young men. If you can win, that's nice, but that is not the most important thing that you're trying to develop. You're trying to develop character traits that will allow these young men to be successful somewhere down the road. I often say that a high school coach is the bridge that a young man crosses between adolescence and adulthood. And, Stacy said it best. Somewhere down the road, this is going to help them learning how to deal with this adversity. That's what I take away from this season.
Final question from me regarding it, Larry. When I think about the win over Summit Academy, I didn't write down the date, August something or other, late August, 10 weeks ago. To me, that seems like almost 10 years ago. It just seems like so far removed from just more than just 10 weeks. Do you feel the same way or no?
Well, sure it is. Absolutely. But you know how hard it is? Football's a tough game. To continue to lose and face this adversity week in and week out and continue to show up for practice on Monday. You know what kind of character that builds. You know what kind of intestinal fortitude it takes to do it. I played football, brother. It's easy to go to practice when you're winning. It's a lot more difficult to show up on Monday when you've gotten beaten by 30 points on Friday night, week after week. So I give these kids credit. The kids that stuck it out, the young men that buckled their chin strap every Friday night and went out there, I give them credit. Those are character builders. Those are things that hopefully, as Coach Robinson said, they'll be able to draw on later in life.
Yeah, listen, I've known Stacy Robinson since September of 2001 when I came to Newcastle. He's going to turn this program around. You have to give him time. You have to be patient. You can't just point the finger and say, next man up, next coach up. You got to give the guy some time. Like I said last week, he was brought in, I believe, in April. So he missed the winter weight training program. He's probably going to do what any coach that misses the playoffs will do. And they're going to let the kids be kids, take about a month off. And then once we hit December, see you guys at the rack. We're going to work out. We're going to work hard and talk to me next year in August and September and see how things go. But also keep in mind that they play in one hell of a tough conference, the Parkway Conference.
Maybe the toughest conference in the WPIL. I mean, there's tough, please. I don't think you'd get much debate about that. And Stacy hasn't forgotten how to coach, my man. Trust me, he hasn't. He's been doing this for 25 years. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to motivate young men, but it doesn't happen overnight. And it's tough. It's tough to win football games in the Parkway Conference.
Yeah. You hear things, you read things, the criticism. So that's where that's coming from. I feel for Stacy, feel for the kids. But you got to give the guy a break. You got to give him time. Like I said last week, you want to be the Steelers and have a culture and have a guy around and that the players can know, or do you want to be the Browns and fire this guy, next guy up, fire him again, fire this guy? You can't do that. Give the guy some time, give him a chance. He's had 1 year. That's not a chance. That's 1 year.
I don't think anybody with any authority is talking about firing Stacy. No, that would be a really bad move. And I don't think anybody's talking about it. People on social media can say what they want, but normally they're just venting their frustrations. I'm a Newcastle High School alum. I love Newcastle High School and the athletics. You know, I don't like to see our guys get beat like this, especially guys I've coached, you know, guys I know who work hard, who are tough kids, Bryce Wood, Kyrell Harris, Kayvon Gardner. I had all those guys. These are tough dudes. You know, wow. I mean, they're just tough guys. And it's just a matter of being able to put it together and putting it together in a very, very difficult conference. You know, J.R. Gabriel played on that team. He was one of the toughest guys I ever coached, man. My man he was just, when we used to play Aliquippa in basketball, you know, that's how I used to gauge how tough you are. You know, everybody can be tough maybe against one of the township schools, but when we would play the Quips, my man JR came to play. You know what I'm saying? So you had guys like that on the team, but, you know, not enough of them, not enough experience, and that's just what happens.
You know, Larry, you brought out another question from me when you were talking about coaching. Naturally, Larry used to coach 9th grade boys basketball at Newcastle. Good question for you. Or how about Ralph Lundo? He's obviously the boys basketball coach, and he's going to be getting some of those kids from football. And those kids didn't really know much winning this year. And a lot of times, if you have a program, depending on who you're talking about, maybe that basketball coach will say, well, they won a lot in volleyball, or they won a lot in football, and they're bringing that winning, you know, that attitude, you know, over to our program. Well, there wasn't really that winning part. Is that something that's going to be lacking when those kids, whoever plays basketball, will be taking with them?
Well, winning's contagious. It's a habit, and good habits, like bad habits, are hard to break. And you know, I'm not so sure any of the guys that play football are going to play major roles on this year's basketball team, but eventually they will. You know, the guys that are sophomores on that football team, eventually we're going to have to play significant roles at Newcastle basketball. And you know, we have a culture of winning at Newcastle basketball. And if your mind isn't right and you don't have that winning attitude and you don't have those winning habits, you're not going to play, period.
Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't carry over. I'm sure Ralph will take care of that. And I'm sure the kids, you know, get a couple weeks off and they'll be ready to go come basketball, however many of them, you know, play basketball football team. Yeah. Larry, one final attempt. Anything else that you'd like to say on the Red Hurricane report?
I'm still a Red Hurricane. I'm still a believer. And I will again reiterate that I believe it was 3 years before Newcastle football won the Whippeal Championship at the highest classification in 1998. The year they beat North Allegheny twice. They were 0-10 3 years before that. So, you know, it can turn around, and it can turn around quickly. So I still believe you're never going to ever convince me that the Red Hurricane will not be back.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other, be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.